Today I'm going to show you some of the highest yields that we've ever had the entire year. Welcome to Farms of the Month. We're back again, it's August, and today I'm going to show you 20 different places where you can earn some absolutely insane yields. We're going to categorize them into a few different categories. We'll start off with some of the money markets, the lending and borrowing platforms. We'll then move over into some of the DEX LP strategies. We'll then move over into fixed yield strategies, derivatives, and then a couple of more exotic ones at the end. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it. I don't want to waste any time. We've got a lot to get through here. We're going to first of all start off with a bunch of Hyperliquid protocols, and on a bunch of them right now there are opportunities to earn high double-digit yields on your stablecoins. Now we're going to start off with Hyperbeat. Here you can go to the Morpho beat, which is their I guess instance that they've partnered with Morpho to create these isolated lending vaults or lending infrastructure. And as you can see on screen, you can earn 17% with points on top of that for lending USDT 0, USDE as well, similarly earning Athena points. Yeah, pretty straightforward. You can, if you want to do some looping strategies, do so on the borrow tab. Just be aware that some of the borrow rates right now are pretty insane, but I think that's why the lending rates are so high. So 17% you can earn plus points on top of that. Nothing much more to do there really. Similarly, Felix as well, another money market you could say that have a Morpho vault kind of product here as well. You can earn over 20% here on USDT. Here you can see that it's 21% USDT 0 lending, and there's $62 million in this vault already. So yeah, another option for you right now. You might be wondering, why on earth are the rates so high? I think right now there is a lot of demand to leverage up, particularly with some of the leverage point products and things like that you can actually earn. K-Hype being like another example of a collateral that everyone wants to kind of use to get enhanced exposure to. Similarly, we also have Hyperfi. They have kind of similar, very, very strong yields, USDE 17% plus points, Felix USD 22%, and Hyper USD, USDHL, which is currently offering 33%. Sorry, I was reading the wrong numbers. USDE 11% and Felix USD 14.6%, and then you've got Hyper USD, USDHL at 33%, which is, yeah, again, pretty absurd. We can actually take this a little bit higher actually if we go to Hyperend, where you can see that USDHL, oh, it's kind of come down now, 24%, and similarly USDT 0 at 17.6%. Again, very, very high yields available to you across all four of these. And so, yeah, I think that's pretty much the main ones that we have on Hyperliquid. Again, if you want to do some interesting strategies with K-Hype, you can absolutely do so. Looping with K-Hype has been a really, really interesting one that a lot of people are doing right now. And similarly with the Pendle products as well, the PT K-Hype, as well as some of the other principal tokens, some really, really interesting strategies that you can do on Hyperend, but also some of the other money markets that we just spoke about as well, Hyperbeat as well included. Talking about Morpho, because a lot of these markets were on Morpho, we can go to Morpho on Ethereum mainnet, and we can see similar very strong yields. Here you can see USDE, and again, this is going to be something that you notice a lot, or a trend. The asset issuers that are constantly offering the highest yields are going to be things like Athena's USDE. There are others as well. USR from Resolve, I think, is another one. But I think Athena just consistently showcasing itself to be one of the best. And 18% here, earning some extra points as well on top of that. So you do earn Athena sats as well. There are some random markets here. You can see this TBTC market. It doesn't have the most amount of liquidity in this market, but sometimes you do get these random opportunities where you can earn some juicy yield for a little while if you do have those assets available. Otherwise, have a flick through some of the other Morpho vaults, and you might be able to find some interesting things here as well, especially if you're able to loop up, because you can very much so borrow and loop up, especially when you're using USDE as well. Talking about that as well, Gearbox, kind of similar concept here with leverage farming. You'll be able to see a whole range of different strategies here. Now, I think one thing that Gearbox does really well is they focus specifically on ETH markets, and I don't know if this is intentional or not, but they've done a fantastic job with really dominating like the ETH money market scene, in my opinion anyway, well, creating some of the best products anyway. And I think the yields here really speak for itself. You've got Rocket Pool ETH 10%, CB ETH 12%, Kelp's RS ETH 16%, and points on top of that. And then you have some interesting ones like Lido's Wrapped ST ETH 25%. Of course, bear in mind, this is using the max leverage, which you're probably not going to use. So the yields will probably calm down a little bit, but I think like this is just some of the best strategies that are available right now on ETH. So definitely head over to Gearbox to go and check them out. Of course, they do have a few other ones as well that are really, really insane. Maybe like this Convex RLUSD USDC one, pretty insane. USDF isn't really one that I'm that familiar with, Falcon that is, but again, just something for you guys to kind of take a look into if it's something interesting. We've got a couple more in the money market scene before we move on to like the DEXes. So we've got Silo as well. Again, they have these managed vaults. You will be able to find some interesting opportunities for you. Here you've got a USDC managed vault with 20% APR, 10 million deposited into this one already. You can flick through. Maybe on Sonic you might find some interesting ones as well. And they even have this one, which is a 4.3%. I'm not sure if this is MEV Capital who are issuing this one. It must be. I think that is their logo. 20 million. It's on Avalanche, which I think is a bit unusual. Not really a chain that I'm using that much, but I think if this were to consistently offer 5%, maybe it's tokenized, maybe you can borrow against it, do some looping, then I think this could be something of interest as well to some of you. Moving on to another favorite of mine, which is Euler. Again, one thing I love about Euler is, yeah, sure, you can lend, you can borrow, but they've packaged a lot of these things, arbitrage rates, farming points, leverage restaking, kind of all into like one-click instruments, and that's why they've been able to get like 10 million plus liquidity into every single one of these vaults here. And I think the reason being is because the yields are so incredibly high. Now, most of these are leveraging either like these LRTs. So here you've got ST ETH and RS ETH, which is from Kelp, using EUSDE, which I'm not the most familiar with. So yeah, that is one. USDE as well is a common one. Athena, as we mentioned before. Here we go. Here they are. So these are the PT markets that are available on through Pendle. Now, sometimes you might not be able to open these positions, and that's because the caps just get hit. On Aave, for example, like the caps have been hit, they get hit instantly. So it's not always like the best strategy for you, but I think some of them are just absolutely insane. I mean, look at this one. This is USTB, which is Athena's T-bill stablecoin. And you can do a looping strategy here, earning 112%, which is just absurd to me. I would expect that sometimes, like when you're in these strategies, you're not going to earn the exact APR that's listed here. There's a number of reasons for this. Firstly, you're not going to be hitting the max multiplier. And secondly, these rates are dynamic, and so they do constantly change. So yeah, just please bear that in mind. These ones are absolutely absurd. We're talking about high double digits, sometimes triple digits, as you can see across the board, depend like on all of these vaults here. So yeah, just bear it in mind. Look, some strategies here you're going to find interesting, some you're not, which is why I'm just going to tell you like just to go to this Euler page and just spend like 10 minutes going through them and see which one you find attractive. For me, the ones that are more attractive are going to be things like this, USDT, USDC. I think this is a boosted position through Turtle Club, an LP fund or an LP protocol who basically helped to offer enhanced yield. So this one is kind of cool to me. I think otherwise the Athena ones are kind of cool, especially USTB as well. So those are the ones that I find interesting, but again, like some of you will find other ones interesting. I think also the if you're holding ETH, I think these are also some of the interesting ones too. We're going to Solana land here, and again, similar kind of concept. Through looping, we have a Syrup USDC 26%, and we also have some Sol strategy. So if you're holding Sol, You do have like RST Sol, JSol, Lantern Sol, all offering like high double digits as well. You can scroll down and maybe you find like a different LST that is more interesting to you, but those ones are offering the highest yield. JLP is still interesting to me, still a big market. And yeah, I think is also a great option. Remember that JLP is an index of a variety of assets. It's Sol heavy, so just bear that in mind. But it does have the stablecoin, Bitcoin, and ETH exposure as well that kind of balances out a little bit. But yeah, another one that I think has, I mean, JLP has just been a really, really interesting instrument for a long time. But yeah, just another one for you there. But I think for me anyway, the interesting ones here is Syrup USDC and the LSTs here that you can loop up for 20+%. All right, we're moving on to some of the DEXes, and I guess you could argue that Fluid is maybe a DEX and a money market in one. It kind of combines them in one, some sort of liquidity hub. They have this really, really, really interesting concept where you can essentially lend an LP token and borrow an LP token and do some interesting loops that way. The Bitcoin ones are really interesting because I think this is like one of the ways that you can earn like really good real yield from Bitcoin, especially if you have a pool that's able to get a lot of volume. Maybe you are able to pick an asset that has like these extra points. Maybe it's like EtherFi's eBTC, or maybe it's like yeah, one of the other ones. I think LBTC from Lombard is another example, although I don't necessarily see that on my screen right now. And you can do some really, really interesting looping strategies from this, which I think are really, really good. And so yeah, Bitcoin particularly is one that I like to use on Fluid. Sometimes you will be able to find like things like GHO USDC, which is Aave's stablecoin, and you will find like a discrepancy in the supply and borrow rate, particularly because of some extra Fluid tokens, I believe, that are being used to incentivize this market. Here you go, here's an LBTC one. So those ones can be kind of interesting, and you can like earn some pretty good yields. If you do want to just like, I don't know, passively earn yield, I think even GHO is like 12% here. So, I mean, for a pre-established protocol like Fluid, not the worst yield in the world. Here you go, look, USDT 14%, like not bad at all, not bad at all. But for me, yeah, I think like if you go to Multiply and you kind of find like some of these interesting yield opportunities here that we just talked about, where you're able to use like these LP tokens and kind of loop up, then I think you can get some really, really attractive yields here. And I think again, Athena at the heart of everything, as we mentioned, but also like Aave stablecoin GHO here as well, which I think is also interesting. And then the ETH and Bitcoin ones I think are super interesting too. You can earn some very, very, very good double-digit yields here as well. Next up, we're going to talk about Curve. No looping, no leverage here. I think there are just a bunch of like just generally decent vaults here. If you do have like the max Curve block, maybe you're doing this through Convex, you can get some very, very, very good yields. Again, like GHO CRV USD 22% with the max CRV boost, like really, really, really good. So yeah, I think another interesting one there for you. Frax USD against USDE, again 35%, and of course you're earning Athena like rewards with that one. Similarly, SUSD against SUSDE, again, just like some really, really good ones here. I think for me, I think CRV USD is like a good stable coin to hold. Same with Frax USD. I think Frax sometimes doesn't get the love that it might deserve, actually, because I think some of the pools that they actually have are pretty good. You can go to Fraxtal, maybe check out some of the other chains as well. But on here, you will find like Frax bond products offering like very, very high yields as well. As you can see, 10% in CRV generally across the board here, plus like additional Frax rewards. Here you go, and like some extra on top. So yeah, not bad at all. Have a look. Maybe this one might be interesting too if you're not keen on like the looping or the leverage. Again, 15%, very, very possible across the board here on Curve. We're gonna move over to Aerodrome now, and I think at times this can be a little bit degen because we're looking at like concentrated liquidity here. You really, really need to manage these really well. I think at times these are probably a little bit too concentrated. So you gotta, manage this yourself, really. But as you can see, look, this is the effect of concentrated liquidity. 1,200% APRs here on an ETH USDC pool. Flick through. I think the CBBTC ones are also interesting. Again, concentrated liquidity. You got to be very, very careful here. But sometimes you can find correlated assets. And here is an example of one. CBBTC against LBTC, 36%. I mean, this is interesting because both assets are kind of pegged to one another. They don't necessarily decorrelate from one another. And so your IL risk is very low for a pool like this. Seems like there might have been a pretty good amount of volume recently on this one, so it might not always have the best yield. It will be a dynamic yield, of course, but I think this one is super, super interesting too. So yeah, have a look. Aerodrome generally will always have some sort of pool that you'll find interesting. I think it's just a case of like managing that concentrated liquidity. Maybe you got to hedge it yourself, or maybe you got to have a fairly wide pool if you want to like not suffer from IL. But sometimes, as I mentioned, you find these correlated pairs and they could be fairly interesting. Okay, we're going to move on to some of my favorite markets now. This is Pendle. Pendle obviously offering fixed rate yields. And I think this is probably one of the best ones that is available right now. This is USDE, PT USDE, 16%. This market expires in 42 days. So you've got 42 days of earning 16%. You remember, you can go to Morpho and you can go to some of these other apps and kind of loop up there if you want. These PTs generally are available on many money markets nowadays, especially the Athena ones. And so, yeah, you could juice this up to 30-40% in my opinion. But yeah, either way, fixed rate, fantastic yield, just one of the best. Of course, if you want to be a little bit degen, you can go for some of these other markets. I'm not the most familiar with like some of these more novel, newer stable coins. I'll add them to my research list, of course, but I think that's why I think something like USDE is generally going to be one of the best. Spectra, also another market that essentially allow you to create these fixed rate markets or these yield markets. Very similar concept. The reason why I'm showing you this one is because right now there are a couple of LP opportunities here with very, very high yield. There's kind of three in particular. We have Aave GHO USR pool, USR being the stablecoin from Resolve, GHO being the stablecoin from Aave. Again, another one on Yearn here as well, 65%. And then you've got Level USD, which is a rehypothecated Aave USDC asset, essentially, 67%. A lot of these are LP rewards in the form of Spectra's token, and they are generally not as good as advertised here because they are these advertised yields are if you've got like the max reward boost, which I suspect not everyone has. But even at the very standard levels, as you can see here, almost 30%, not bad at all. Not bad at all. Yeah. I mean, these markets aren't ones that I think you can necessarily chuck like 7 figures at, but I think, you know, you can throw in, you know, 5 figures, maybe low 6 figures, and still like have really good yield opportunities here. Of course, everything that I say in these videos is not financial advice. You know the risks with all of these protocols. You have smart contract risk, you have oracle risk, you have looping risk, leverage risk, liquidation risk, and a liquidity risk, a bunch of others as well. So just please bear that in mind. You've got multiple assets from different asset issuers and different protocols interacting. So yeah, just please bear that in mind. Right, we're going to move on over to the derivatives now, and we're going to talk about probably one of the best pools over the last 6 months. This is Lighter's LLP. Maybe it hasn't even been 6 months yet, but it's just month over month, like consistently just been one of the best. Still offering 60% APR. I mean, what can you say? The maximum drawdown for this vault has been only 8%. You could have just deposited in this for, you know, back in February time, really. So we are about 6 months in. Yeah, this is at all-time highs in TVL. It's been a vault that I've deposited into, and yeah, I think it speaks for itself. Has been one of the best performing vaults that I've seen this year, actually. So shout out to Lighter. I've talked about them before. You know what you need to do. Use my ref link. Use my ref link for everything, actually, because that helps me out. Yeah, you can enjoy those yields. Now, Extended is another perp market. they have a similar kind of market making vault here that earns trading fees and performs liquidations. Again, 40% APR here. The issue here, however, is that the vault is currently capped, and so just keep an eye out for when that cap gets increased. It probably will get increased at some point in the next month, and so I think at that point, just make sure you try and get in if you can. Yeah, I mean, not really much to say. 40% APR, very similar concept to Lighter. Yeah, one of the best vaults as well, performance-wise, in recent times as well. So yeah, this hasn't been around for as long as Lighter, but it has been around long enough that I think yeah, it's a decent opportunity. Again, just make sure that you're aware of the risks here. This is based on market conditions, and this is a market-making vault. So at times it might not perform well, but I think historical data has shown that it's been okay. We're talking about FX protocol here. Why? Because they've got this pretty good delta neutral stablecoin vault offering 15%. I think there might be ways that you can actually earn a little bit more, and that's because I think FX Save or some of the FX stablecoins are listed on those money markets that we talked about at the very beginning, and therefore you can maybe loop up or kind of get a little bit extra leverage on this yield. But I think even at the vanilla 15%, it's not too bad at all. Now, for those of you who actually are involved in the FX ecosystem and do have FXN locked, you are able to earn some very, very good additional rewards here, and you can see that this pushes it up all the way up to 30% if you've got the max. If you've got the max boost here, that is of course by staking your FX and or locking them up, I believe. So yeah, not a bad one here. I think even at the base rate, it's not the worst yield in the world, but I'm more talking about if you did have that lockup, then yeah, 30%, very, very good yield. Right, we talked a lot about Athena, but there is another player, of course, and in this kind of funding rate, market neutral kind of stablecoin ecosystem. You got Resolve here with USR. Now they've actually recently announced these new vault strategies that are aiming to execute automatic looping strategies for you on your behalf, using all of those markets that we talked about: Silo, Gearbox, Fluid, Euler, Morpho. We talked about all of them already. Now you can do this manually yourself already. You don't necessarily need to do this, but if you just want to literally hands-off approach, just deposit and enjoy, then yeah, 15 to 30% APY here, and yeah, I think that's very, very good. Very, very good. And that's available to you on the Resolve web app. It's already got 17 million in TVL. I suspect that this will continue to grow if it can maintain this APY. Right, a couple more exotic ones. We're going to talk about Liinal, which is basically an app built on top of Hypercore that does these delta neutral strategies for you, in which they buy a spot and short the perp. You can do this with a little bit of leverage and therefore earn even higher APYs as well. But generally, I think it's been pretty good. And I think recently APYs have been over 20% at times, particularly because the market has been fairly hot recently. And so, yeah, this is just like a generic one. I mean, if you were to do delta neutral strategies on, let's say, Pump or Fartcoin, you can see double digit 20% plus APYs there. Yeah, and of course, you're earning points, and those rewards hopefully will add up to something in the future. But yeah, just another place where you can do delta neutral funding rate farming. And the great thing about this is it's all just one click. You don't have to manage it yourself. Liinal will manage it all for you. And I think that's a really nice thing. And again, if you want to use it, please use my ref link. It helps me out. But if not, no worries. Last but not least, we are going to be talking about GammaSwap. And GammaSwap have created these new no impermanent loss kind of, well, they're not no impermanent loss. They basically hedge out the impermanent loss here by using their option strategies. And so they've created these synthetic tokens that kind of represent this. Essentially, you have the AMM yield, and then you can hedge out the impermanent loss through these kind of long option strategies. And you can see this yourself here. You can see exactly kind of what's going on here with the LP here, and then these long option strategies where you're essentially hedging the loss that you possibly get from impermanent loss. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that it's completely hedged at all times. Sometimes there might have to be some rebalancing, and I think in those cases the strategy might not make money. But I think what they've created here is something really, really, really interesting. This is an ETH instrument essentially, with direct exposure to ETH that's earning 20%. And yeah, that's remarkable. And this is purely because like the AMM yields are generally really, really good. And if you're able to hedge out like the underlying exposure so that you've only got single asset exposure in the form of ETH, you've created a really, really interesting instrument. Now, I probably will do a video on GammaSwap going into a little bit more detail in terms of exactly how this works and like exactly what the risks are here. But I think it's something that is worth paying attention to. And right now they have GETH, which is available on Base. But I think in the not so distant future, they probably will have GBTC and maybe G other assets as well, which will be probably some of the highest yielding instruments on the market as well. So yeah, shout out to GammaSwap for that. Right, we've covered a lot in this video. Let me know what you guys think about it. I mean, we've covered instruments that you can earn yield on with your Bitcoin, with your ETH, with your Sol, and of course with your stablecoins, which is the predominant focus. Yeah, there's going to be a lot more new strategies coming out, I think, at the end of this month especially. And so I may have to do an update, if not in September. Definitely will have like another Farms of the Month. Let me know what your thoughts are. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll be back with plenty more educational videos in the not so distant future.